you've explained a lot about TE versus TI and like NE versus SE. Can you talk more about like FE versus FI and like how FE relates? I mean, FI and FE relate in different ways.
Yeah, sure. I met an ESFP yesterday. Here we go, my account, right? See it?
Okay.
I met an ESFP yesterday, and when I was talking to the ESFP, she was telling me, I asked her what she did for a living, um, and she said that she works with mental health. That told me nothing really. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you do in mental health. Um, and then she said, oh, I work with people that are trying to kill themselves. Again, she just told me what it is. I'm trying to understand her, and she didn't give me anything. And then I don't have FE, but I then have to use TE to be like, okay, I tell myself, how do I get her to open up and give me more details about? All I want to know is, I basically want an answer that's like an informative answer, and she won't give it to me. So what she starts to do, I start to make her talk about herself. I'm like, okay, so tell me, how do you feel when you're at work? And now I get all the information because with the FI parent, it has to talk about itself in order to relate. So she started to say to me, wow, I can just feel people. I know what they need. And I'm like, what's that exactly? Like, what is that? And then she said, I go to their house, I'll drive around, I'll pick up their things. So I'm like, is that what your mental health carer or worker? It's so ambiguous. Nothing was clear. And then I was getting frustrated, and then I
Mm-hmm.
left the interaction. Um, but I did try. But when I'm socially doing this, it's just not the conversation I want to have. With
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't reveal any information, but tells me everything about what they value. So FI versus FE. If I ask an FE user, um, I met an INFJ the weekend before this one, and I asked her what she does for a living, and she said she's doing a PhD in a specific area. And I was like, go on, tell me more. And then she spoke for 10 minutes about her PhD, and I was just enthralled in what she was telling me because I didn't have to ask anything. Yeah, I just wanted to hear it. And then afterwards, when she finished speaking, I asked her how it related in all these different instances and where it could be best used and why then study this area to do what with later, which then put her in a flow state. And but that's because she relayed the information to me by relating it. So she'd give me examples of how this over here and why. It's like TI gives you why, T gives you what is. You know,
Mm-hmm.
even now in this whole interaction, I'm trying to answer why, and all I'm doing is stringing what is, and hoping that you'll find a way to ask me another question to make this answer more accurate.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I think there is confusion with people thinking like, okay, if you're talking about what is, then that is just SE
Yeah.
versus TE. Okay.
So what T does is I can see what you're saying here. So with SET, they're both functions that have been identified to be at the front of the brain on different sides. So SE's on one side, T's on the other. And both of them only get used because they reserve energy, especially when they're hero functions. So when somebody's asking a question to you and myself, it's going to light up on a scan in the same place on the opposite sides to. So what happens with SC? It reports. but so does TE, which is why I feel a lot of people get confused with SE and TE.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at an ESFP versus an ESTP, the main difference is that the ESFP will have their values attached to their points. So, for instance, an ESFP, you could say to them, "How was your day?" They'll say something like, "Oh, I was out," and they give you loads of information, loads of data about what happened and how they felt about it. With an ESFP, they try and understand where you're coming from so that they can relate better when they give an answer, by giving you as much details as possible so they don't have to relate as much. Whereas the ENFJ will relate first. They will, because they're more reluctant to verify the information that's coming through, so they will relate everything to that person. So they open up and just start speaking. So therefore, they don't have to verify what they say, but they use NI to do that.
How do you do that? How do you relate first when you're giving information?
Yeah. So for instance, whenever I'm around an ENFJ, we have this instant energy, and they'll say something like, "Oh, I like this. Oh, I like that. How are you? How was your journey?" And in my head, I'm thinking, why do you care? Why do you care? Thank you. What are you up to? But then I know that they're being nice, right?
Yeah.
and But because I have FI inferior, that force onto my inferior function makes me really uncomfortable. Um, so I always say with an ENFJ, it's like going back to square one every time they meet me, because I have to warm up to them. Because they will relate so many questions to my FI. They want me to give a value. So they might say, for instance, let's say, "Oh, I like your earrings." I'll be like, "Thanks." But what the answer they want to hear will be more so like, "Oh, thank you. I got them from da 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 da.
Yeah.
I like this color. I really, this color looks nice on this." But that's not what I'm going to share in an interaction. The type of interaction that I would more so prefer would be like, somebody gently asking me questions, about my thoughts, like this, for instance.
Okay, good.
It's an easy interaction for me, and I can stay in my ego. Um, but when I'm asked questions that are on my inferior function, it would require me to overcome it. And I think personally, it doesn't matter who you are, your inferior function is always going to be, it's always going to be difficult to always use it aspirationally,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to be comfortable. And I think another person on another channel said that you engineer people through the child function.
Right.
If you get that person to, because the child function is where all the relief is on every single archetype. So if that person starts to use their child function, it's like you can walk straight into the house. Do you remember what I said about the inferior being the house? The
Yeah.
child,
Right.
it's like the door, the child just walks straight in, and then it can basically destroy the house. Nobody's there. But yeah, the I can't remember my point again.
Or
Nor can you.
neither of us are good at this. I was like, oh,
We need
where
an
we're going.
AI user in this conversation.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh well, whatever. It doesn't matter where we were going. It's all interesting information.
oh,
But I
great.
don't know. Oh, the original question I asked though was asking you to, oops, my earring dropped. Whatever. Explain, I'll just take the other one off so I don't look like weird. Explain the difference between how FE and FI relate.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
again,
And
that
then,
varies on where that function is.
yeah.
Honestly, there is 4 different FE users. Sorry, 4. There are 4
Yeah.
attitudes for the FE user. And obviously, we've got 2 FE inferior, 2 FE childs, 2 FE parents, and 2 FE heroes. So during an interaction, what you'll see, if you look at an ISTP, they're reluctant to relate. When I've
Mhm.
seen ISTPs that relate beautifully, I always find them to be very successful because they've mastered the art of when to use their inferior. Um, and therefore, they will converse. Most ISTPs will be quiet. You
Yeah.
know, they don't want to ask questions, they just want to understand. Um, and then they will reluctantly ask questions. So when I've looked at children, like an ISTP little boy or girl, they're quieter, but they're also quite active because they just want to play and engage with their external environment so they can master it so they don't have to ask questions. So if you say to an inferior FE user, like, go and say hello, be pleasant, you're forcing them to use their inferior function all the time. Now, I don't have any results to say whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Mhm.
Not watched anyone from child to adult life yet use their function unwillingly, but it does happen. I do speak to a lot of people that feel that they do live in their shadow because they're processing there all the time. And normally, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. What FE does, it interacts with the object. Every extroverted function interacts with the object. So if FE is about firstly validating, then affirming, and then relating, you can clearly see that when you're seeing these FE users using it in different states, in different attitudes. So
Yeah.
an FE parent, like an INFJ or an ISFJ, they use FE very differently to each other, for one, but they still use it nonetheless. So the FE parent, when I have my FE parent clients, they'll always come on the call and they'll say, how are you? And I usually try and race them and say, how are you first? Because I know they're going to ask me, how am I? Whereas with my other clients, I'll normally just go straight into a session. But the FE parent users will feel responsible for asking me how I am. And then I always
Mhm.
I'll go, oh, you care about my day. you know, uh,
Yeah.
and it's basically they basically will, but you can't say that every FE user will do that. They might be sad, they might feel unhappy, and they might not want to do it. But when they are in a flow state, they will use it as a parent function. And it's just basically relating so that the person in front gives information, the
Mhm.
object gives information back. So with the ENFJ, you could argue, I know a lot of ENFJs to ask a lot of questions because they want information. But then when you ask them a question, it's almost like they're reluctant to verify. So one of the questions that I asked was, why are you interested in type and what has it taught you? That's what I
Oh.
put out to my followers when I was receiving their voice notes. And it basically, that would just help me determine whether they have TI or TE because it's a
Oh.
why question. And
Yeah.
if somebody asks me that, like, why are you interested in type? I'm like, because I'm interested in type. Like, it's a subject area I enjoy.
Yeah.
I'm interested in type because I like it. Um, what part of that question do you want me to answer? An NI user does not really know what part of what's in their head They don't know what piece of information you're looking for. I
Mm.
say having NI is like being connected to the internet in your brain. So when somebody asks me a question, if you're an NI Dom, especially NI hero, it's like, what part do you want me to answer to that? So a lot of the times when I'm listening to an NI user, they will try and they will speak and they will gradually come to an answer. Again, that's
Mm.
sense, is it? So that's
No.
how I would answer that. It would be really vague. NI is vague. It's very.
Mm.
Um, what do you enjoy doing in your free time? This will allow the person, in my opinion, to start discussing their values. So
Ah,
again, will let me see if they have FI or FE. When I
how so?
ask, so for instance, if you said to me, what do you enjoy doing in your free time? You're going to meet any critic. I'm going to say, why do you want to know that for? Right? I'm not going to want to tell you what I do in my free time.
Uh-huh.
um, Whereas for others that felt like they had to answer that question, they will
Yeah.
say things like, oh, I like to hang out with my friends, or I like to study. Um, they'll say these different things. And that just gives me an indication of the way they express their values. So an FE user might basically centralize their points around um, others. I can't really speak for an FE user. I just know when I hear it, it's like, what do you enjoy doing in your free time? The FE user will start to relate loads of information to make sure I understand. There we go. That's what they'll do. To make sure I understand their answer. Uh,
Okay. Whereas FI user will.
they can really answer that quite well. You know, FI DOMs, they will say, oh, I sing, oh, I act, or, you know, I like to draw. The FE users will say more things like, oh, I really enjoy drawing because, you know, give me a long
Ah.
reason as to why they enjoy it, because that's
Okay.
their way of making sure that I'm being related to properly.
Oh, okay. That to me, okay, I get it. Um, I want to give an actual example though. Like, okay, if you ask me what do I like to do, one of the top things I like to do is go to the gym and lift weights. And the reason I like to do it is because I like to be physically active, like it feels good. I'm into fitness, but I also really like the community of the gym. It's like it's an important place to me where I get my extroversion time out. Um, and be around people who like to, work on themselves and improve themselves. So,
Yeah, there we go. See, my brain is, wow, Kate took me right there. I get to know why Kate really enjoys it. So now I want to know more about how you get to extrovert there. Why can't you extrovert, I don't know, at your friend's house? Why does it have to be at the gym? So I know there's a connection between your body and and the and maybe like sweating or your heart pounding and getting yourself into a physical state, opposed to
oh, yeah.
say somebody else that might say, oh, you know, I enjoy going to my friends for the extroversion, and yeah, it's
I mean, I don't like to talk too much at the gym because I want to bother people. But no, it's a good place to have little conversations in between because one, I'm taking pre-workout, so like I'm ready to go with all the caffeine. And two, like when I'm moving, that's when I think I do my best thinking. And
yeah,
I'm like, oh, I just thought this thought I want to discuss now. Yeah.
yeah.
It's like when I'm at my best.
Yeah, see, now I understand you a lot more because I didn't ask, I only asked one question.
I know.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
but I wanted to give an understanding of, like, okay, what would this actually look like and how I would answer it versus like, I like going to the gym. But I think to a lot of people that could sound like FI, like giving my values of why I like to go to the gym.
it's not. So, for instance, let's say I give you a reason of why I like to work out. Yeah. So I like to work out because ultimately I feel better about myself. That's the only reason, because I don't like feeling overweight. I feel paranoid when I am. Um, and that's why I work out. So that
Mhm.
my true value, it's nothing to do with anybody else. It's only me here. It's I don't work out for anybody else. I work out for myself. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know how to relate that in the context of how it will work for anybody else. That's why I do it, and I would expect everybody else to have a different reason to me, even though there are people that have the same reason as myself. But if I will think, oh,
Mhm.
I'm a person with that does it
Yeah.
for a specific reason, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
FI has that judging mentality that comes with that function, which is like, oh, it's not the same as me though. I'm
Yeah.
different. I'm unique.
And FE is like, oh, people like this.
Yeah,
Everybody likes this.
yeah.
Yeah.
I always
Yeah.
say FE sorts out people's values. The higher up it is, it knows what to do with the way people um, identify their values. FI is like more cautious. So myself and another FI user might be like, let's say, oh, why did you get that necklace? I'll be like, because I love the color of the ocean. It's blue. It makes me feel like I'm near the sea. It reminds me of, I have a lovely feeling connected to that color. I know how I feel about this color.
Oh,
Yeah. Whereas an FB user will be like, oh, you've just shared your values with me.
yeah.
Maybe I can buy you a dress in that color or a pencil. But basically, they know what to do with my values. So I always say
Uh-huh.
it's hard to buy an FI user a gift. They know what they want. They know what they like. Whereas with an
Oh,
FB user, I feel like they're like, oh, I'm just glad you cared. That's the
yeah.
impression they give me anyway. It's like, oh, it's just nice you thought of me. You're kind.
Oh my God. My parents, yes. My
Yeah.
mom's very easy to buy for. My dad's impossible. Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah, FIs. And the
Why?
lower the FI, oh my God, the more like of a pinhead. It's, getting that thread through the pinhead
Mhm.
they become. The FI inferior users, they're myself and ESTJ, it's like, it's the wrong, it's so specific, it's like, has to be a certain exact way. And if it's not, it's like that feeling didn't get to be achieved. Like, I don't get that. But I'm grateful, because I'm older. When I was a child, I would have been like, no, mom, it's wrong, Yeah,
Yeah.
so the FI user knows exactly what they like, you know.
Mm.
But a lot of FI users will say to me, but I don't know how I feel. I'm like, you do. You've just non-stop spoke about yourself for the last 20 minutes. You definitely know what you value. Because people associate feeling with FI. It's talking about your values. It's what you value. Um, and then the other question, how do you feel about COVID and quarantine?
Oh, this is interesting.
That was very interesting, the response
Yeah.
for that. A lot of people would say something like, oh, I don't believe it, or yeah, it's real, and I'm going out of my mind. Um, but I asked them that question because I wanted to see if they had intuition.
Mm.
So the answers where I received, like, yeah, it sucks, it's kind of ruining the way I feel about myself, or those type of answers I found to be more S driven. Um,
Mm.
whereas the N answers, they were speculating all the time. They looked at different instances and why they were happening. So they didn't actually discuss it. they discussed everything around the topic, around the object even. So I'm asking, how do you feel about COVID and quarantine? I'm going to one, hear their values, and I'm going to also hear if they have intuition, or whether they're going to tell me tangible facts and instances that
Mm.
haven't that they haven't explored. Like I always feel, for instance, if I'm talking to an SE user, um, they'll say, "Yeah, it is what it is. I've enjoyed, whatever they've enjoyed," and I'm like, "Go on, give me that bit more that I'm waiting for. I'm waiting to hear the meaning of why," and there's no they don't elaborate there. For me anyway, that's why I
Oh,
asked. So then I wrote, what excites you about the future? So I will give you an exact example where I had one girl who thought she was an ENFP, um, who I said is an ESFP, and she almost swears that she didn't answer that question right. That's why she thinks I mistyped her. And she was basically saying how worried she was, and then that was it. She was like, "No, I don't know." Almost like, "I don't know how I feel about the future."
yeah.
Now, every NI user I asked that question to, they had they rambled for like 5 minutes. That was like a question that they really enjoyed answering. Because if I'm in an interaction with somebody, I literally will say, "Oh, where are you going on holiday?" Because I just want to talk about the future. So I've learned from young that if I ask somebody about their plans for their holiday, I get to go into a flow state. So
Mm.
I can say, "Oh, are you going anywhere next year?" And they'll be like, "Oh yeah, we've booked Barbados, yeah." And I'll be like, "Oh, tell me, like, have you been there before? Um, what's it? I just want to know. I just want to discuss the possibilities of this holiday happening, and not possibilities. Sorry, wrong word. I want to imagine this holiday that they're going on. I enjoy
Okay.
every interaction that I want to have is I want to be put into my imagination.
Okay.
The more in my imagination I am, the happier I feel. So like,
Okay. But
yeah,
this girl thought she had NE.
yeah. She
Uh,
thought she
what,
had me, and she's like, "I don't feel like I gave you enough possibilities." I was like, "Because you have NI, and you have NI inferior." And she really argued against that, and she has it's her prerogative to do so. I said it isn't an opinion at the end of the day.
yeah.
You volunteered sending the answers, um,
Yeah.
but at the same time, just know you will be judged for the answers because that's why I asked them.